Hi everyone. Haven't been around for a little while, haven't been feeling that great to be honest, but I'm out and about today waiting for my son who's out riding, so I'm just collecting him soon. So I thought I'd check in and say hello, and I remember the last time I did a video about my actual heart condition, I had said that I would talk about what had led me to having heart failure and needing a transplant. Well, I suppose really it's been a very long but inevitable road, in the sense that the first real problem I had was back in 2005, and since then I suppose I've had ups and downs, but I guess gradually things have become more and more testing. And then the last couple of years I ended up having a lot of arrhythmias, where some of you will know I was in hospital regularly during the late part of 2022 and most of 2023. Now, lots of people get a thing called atrial fibrillation, and it's very common and relatively easily treated actually. But because of the structure of my heart and also the access to be able to treat it through my groin, I was really only left with one option, which was to have essentially the conductivity between the top part of my heart and the bottom part of it cut off. So I had this procedure done in August last year. Fairly drastic procedure really, there's no going back from it. Once the electrical system has been essentially cut off, that's it. So I am now 100% dependent upon my pacemaker to keep me going in the bottom chambers of my heart. So happily it fixed one thing, in the sense of not making me feel sick from all these arrhythmias that I was getting, but unfortunately, and it's quite complicated so I'm not going to bore you all, but essentially it put me into heart failure because my heart couldn't cope with beating the way it was now beating. And so how did I know I was in heart failure? Well, obviously a doctor told me. But I got to that point because I ended up not being able to breathe whilst I was lying down. So one night I was really struggling to breathe, had these really weird gurgling noises as I breathed in, and it sort of just got worse from there really. So again, it took a couple of days, but I ended up going to A&E and scored myself a week-long stay in hospital, where basically the treatment was to try and push out the fluid from my lungs. People get fluid in different places when they have this. Some people get it in their stomach, some people in their legs. Mine was in my lungs. And so after my week-long stay in hospital, I went home, but unfortunately I was only really well for a couple of days, and I ended up back in hospital, but a different hospital, where I stayed for about 10 days, I think. And that's when the real treatment for heart failure began. Because it's quite funny, sure funny is the right word, but funny, because over the last number of years, maybe 5, 10 maybe, when I've been going for my annual and biannual checkups for my heart, I've joked with the cardiologist to say, can you not just give me a new heart? And up until that point they'd sort of said, no, your heart's doing well, you're nowhere near the stage of needing a heart transplant. But I kind of knew that I would need one day. I felt the decline. I knew that I couldn't do the stuff that I was able to do, and I'd felt that was a gradual decline over a period of time. And I think really just what pushed me over the edge was having this procedure done. So whilst I was in that hospital, the second hospital, one of the cardiologists came to me and said, I think it's now time that we talk about a heart transplant. And it's quite funny when somebody says it coming from them, it's really quite, well, I suppose it's quite confronting really, because up until that point I'd sort of semi-joked about it. But at this stage, when they were now suggesting to me that it's something that needed to be considered, I kind of took a bit of a gulp. And the term itself, heart failure, is quite interesting, because I'd always associated heart failure as being, you're going to die. And sure, eventually, if nothing was done, I would die. But hopefully something will be done. But it's an interesting phrase, I think, because I think a lot of people think maybe that same thing. So it doesn't mean my heart isn't working. It just means that it's not working the way it needs to work. Anyway, to try and help me, back in December, so a couple of months after that procedure, one of the very clever doctors suggested that they give me a different type of pacemaker. Again, I won't go into the ins and outs of it, probably bore most people to tears. But what that did really was realign or resynchronize how my heart beats to replicate more of a normal heartbeat. Anyway, that's how I've ended up with heart failure. I'm obviously still waiting for the phone call. And as I said at the start, I haven't been feeling that great lately. I've struggled a bit, to be honest. Probably psychologically struggled and physically struggled. But what can you do? Just got to carry on. And overall, I am still upbeat. I am still positive that a new heart will come for me one day. At the end of the day, it hasn't even been, I think it's been end of February to now. What's that? March, April, May, June. So it's been like just over 4 months. So, you know, some people wait a long time to get a new heart. Yes, some people get them very, very quickly. But I think the average time here in Australia is about 6 months. But look, that's as long as a piece of string. You know, there's so many factors that are involved with this process, you know, from blood type to tissue type to antibodies to size. You know, there's all sorts of inputs that need to be considered. So I just have to sit tight and wait my turn and try to keep myself as active as I can. But as I said, I have been feeling pretty grubby lately, and been getting a lot of this might sound ironic, but I've been getting a lot of arrhythmias, but I shouldn't be able to feel the arrhythmias, and as such I can't feel them, but I feel bad when I'm getting them. I know it's kind of odd, but you know, for those that know me well, they'll know that I'm odd. So look, as I say, got to just keep my chin up, keep going, and get there eventually. All right, see ya, bye.